Going for boost over. Well, I think going for boost if you're a boost merchant, like someone like AJ or someone, you go for boost.
100% of the time.
Yes.
Always, every second of every game, ball's going in your net, don't worry about it. Go get the boost and make sure you've got the full 100 to celebrate with the other team.
Boost over ball is a good time when your opponent is dribbling towards your own corner and you know it has no threat to go into your net at all, and your teammate is behind you for sure. If all of those align, it's better to just take your corner boost, let him just dribble into the wall for useless, and force him to go back with 0. That would be a better time to take boost over ball.
If you've ever wondered when the best time to go boost over ball is, you've come to the right place. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Boost Over Ball podcast. First off and foremost, we wanted to thank everyone for listening, for your continued support, for your ratings on, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever it is that you listen to your podcasts, for following and interacting with us on Twitter, for joining our Discord. Today, we will be taking a look at the NA Winter Invitational. The results from that, the NA teams that are going to be representing NA in the Winter Major, before taking you around the world and checking in on other teams from around the world, hence the name, and seeing who from those regions are going to be going to San Diego, before finishing up with a conversation about some more format difficulties and, in my opinion, some shitty rules and clinching situations that happened in MENA. And so without further ado, let's jump right into the NA Winter Invitational.
Hello everybody, it's Ace here, Code Red Jack. So let's start off talking about the group stage. So we have Group A, which was, Gen G, Shopify Rebellion, Dignitas, and Koi. This time around, we did not see a miracle showing from Koi. They were out of Group A, 0-3, with Gen G going 3-0. And then Group B, we're looking at Optic Gaming, FaZe Clan, M80, and Knights, with Knights taking the 0-3, which is no big surprise. But the big surprise here was Optic goes 3-0, ending up taking FaZe Clan in round 1, 3-1.
Yeah, that's not something that I saw happening at all. I actually think I predicted Optic to go out 0-3, so, good for them for seemingly turning things around, but my God. We'll talk about this more later, but FaZe Clan dropping a game to Optic. In Group C, we have G2, Space Station, Ghost Gaming, and Furia being eliminated, with G2 only beating out Space Station on a tiebreaker. And in Group D, we have Complexity going 3-0, Version 1 and NRG advancing, with Team Axel going 0-3 and being eliminated. So kind of the things that stick out to me here are, Complexity, Gen G, and Optic go 3-0. That's especially Optic, but again, we'll kind of save our talking points on Optic until the end. But my big shock for this is Furia going out in groups. They've shown to be, a better team than that. They go out on a tiebreaker with Ghost Gaming, but Ghost is a team that we have not seen make it out of groups before, so I am a little bit surprised that that Furia had some difficulties with them losing in Game 5 to Ghost.
Honestly, I haven't seen very good showing out of Furia since they've come up to NA. So while they have been able to make it out of groups each time, I'm not surprised to see that another team of that same, right at the bottom of the top 16 teams area ends up taking them for one of these. So I think that Furia is going to have a lot of time on their hands until the next split, and hopefully they will be taking that time to work on their team, honestly, because they went from being very big fish in a small pond to being, fish that nobody's going to know the name of in a couple of years if they don't figure this out. So, but yeah. them not making it out of groups, that's unfortunate. I really wanted to see them come up here and succeed, but it just doesn't seem to be how it's working out for them.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked the Lost roster move that they made, so maybe it's just going to take them a little bit more time to gel. So, like you said, they got 2 months now between the end of this split and the beginning of the next, so we will have to wait and see what happens with that.
And with that, I think let's start talking about playoffs. So, top of the bracket, we are looking at FaZe Clan versus NRG in round 1. FaZe sweeps NRG. Not too big a surprise there. And then there was a slugfest of a series between Space Station and Dignitas, going to Game 5 with Dignitas taking the win over Space Station 3-2.
In overtime, too, no less.
Yeah, it was such a tight game. It was very fun to watch.
And Space Station needed that to stay alive, to keep their major hopes alive. But on the bottom half of the bracket, we have Shopify Rebellion sweeping Ghost Gaming 3-0, and we have Version 1 taking out M80 3-1.
And in the quarterfinals, this is where my heart shattered. We had Gen G and FaZe meeting in the quarterfinals this time instead of grand finals, as they have the last 3 times I think they've run into each other. And FaZe takes them out 4-1. And it was a rough series to watch. Gen G seems to be able to only be defeated by FaZe Clan, and FaZe Clan, I don't know, they've got their number, man. They seem to know how to just break Gen G apart and take them down now. So I'm hoping to see Gen G figure that out before the international major for San Diego, because I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting for them for San Diego. That might be a little early to call that, but whatever. And then the other half, or the other part of the quarterfinals, we're looking at Complexity versus Dignitas. And again, it was another sweep. It really wasn't that close. And Complexity takes Dignitas 4-0.
On the bottom half of the brackets in the quarterfinals, we have Optic Gaming beating Shopify Rebellion 4-2. And we have G2 taking down Version 1 in Game 7 on Champions Field. That was a very good, very entertaining series to watch. Version 1 needed to win the event to keep their hopes alive for making the major, and G2 ends their run in the quarterfinals.
I would say G2 didn't end their run. I would say Beast Mode ended their run, because Version 1 was going to win a game, win the whole thing, and Beast Mode saved a beautiful shot from his own team. And I laughed because I love seeing those kinds of things, but it's also just like it kind of hurt to see. That series was so much fun to watch, but man, there was just so many times where Version 1 either had an open net or they shot and somebody saved it. It was just so many errors that G2 ended up squeaking it out. But going into semifinals, we're looking at FaZe Clan versus Complexity. This is another one that just wasn't even close. Championship Sunday was a quick one, because we had
almost a full speed run.
Yeah, almost a full speed run, because you had FaZe sweeping Complexity.
And on the other side of the bracket, you have G2 sweeping Optic.
And then for grand finals, we have a near sweep with FaZe Clan taking G2 4-1. So Championship Sunday was over. It was very quick. FaZe again wins another event. This is back-to-back wins for them. Looks like they've figured out whatever it was that was holding them back the first half of this split. Actually, I think since the beginning of the fall split, they haven't really been showing that they're interested in winning. But they're back.
Not since the first event in the fall. They won that, and then it was the fourth clan that we knew and loved, and now maybe they're not fourth clan anymore.
Nope, definitely not.
First clan.
First clan. Oh yeah, FaZe Clan's now first clan. I mean, we're looking at number 1 seed in NA. G2, this event was looking pretty amazing. With their sweep of Optic ending their dream run, which I'll let you do the talking on it. You did a lot of hard work on putting this all together. And then, yeah, I mean, G2 surprised me. Version 1, that series surprised me. I think that either way we'd see FaZe win, but that's kind of heartbreaking for version 1 because they all they needed to do is get to quarterfinals or semifinals, right? And they would have been majors, but ended up going to Dignitas.
Yeah, by default on this one, because if Dignitas would have won in quarterfinals, they would have secured it, but they got the sweep from Complexity. But so, we'll spend a little bit of time talking about Optic now. We'll talk about the quote unquote dream run, right? So Optic, to advance after finishing bottom of their group in every single regional event up into this point, the other two in the split, and I think all of them in the first split too. Like, just not looking good. They boot camped for this regional event, and coming into this to the Winter Invitational, they needed to win the regional, and they needed 8 different teams to have results that were favorable of them, like Dignitas finishing 5th or worse, M80 5th or worse, Space Station 5th or worse, Furia 3rd or 4th, NRG 3rd or worst, Knights 3rd or worse, Koi 3rd or worse, and version 1 3rd or worse. And everything fell their way going into Championship Sunday. So they technically had the destiny in their own hands. All they had to do was win the regional event and they would make major, and they just looked flat. They came out and G2 just stomped them.
Yeah, it definitely looked like a different Optic from Saturday to Sunday this week, because Championship Sunday they did not come out looking nearly as good as they did before. But they also ended up having a pretty easy run, except for their game against FaZe, which they ended up winning anyway. So like everybody else they ran into until G2 wasn't one of the big names except FaZe. So it was a dream run and everything fell their way, and that was absolutely amazing. But I don't know. I don't think they would have ever had a chance against FaZe in Grand Finals, especially not after seeing what they did against G2.
Yeah, I mean, also G2, Jorby coined it 0 second 0 second merchants. They had 3 0-second goals in that series to either take it to overtime or win games. So, I mean, G2 played well, and like we've seen this narrative before, right? We were both at Worlds. G2 look really good. They are, kind of sweeping through people. They're, they got a tough series here and there, but, for the most part, they look pretty dominant. Their offensive rotations are nice and clean. They're, giving up long, clear goals as they do, but, they're able to outscore teams, right? And then they show up to the grand finals against BDS and just lay a brick. And that's what they did today, too. That's what they seem to do, more often than not, right? Once the pressure's on, they just can't finish. So, they just, after winning game 2, they really never looked like they were in control, and it showed as, FaZe was able to outclass everybody from once they made the playoffs until they won the event.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah. I think you covered all of it.
A couple other final things to note. That is the first grand finals that Gen G has missed since their formation as a team. And Dignitas, as I said earlier, by default squeak into the major. So with that being said, I'll kind of do a little bit of a recap on the final winter rankings and the teams that we have that are going to San Diego here in a little over a month. We have FaZe Clan finishing first in the region with 51 points. Gen G finishing second with 50 points. Complexity and G2 tied for third with 46, and Dignitas in fifth with 31. Followed closely behind by M80 and Space Station with 21. NRG, Optic, and version 1 tied for 8th at 18 points. And everyone else falling in behind them. So, I mean, a great split from M80. We've said it before, I did not have that on my bingo card. I did not see that roster competing as much as they did, performing as well as they did. Making a championship Sunday, that's fantastic for them. That's a lot of great experience that they can use moving into the spring split, as all of the teams that either made major and those that didn't will try to make their final pushes towards the world championship. But on the other end of the spectrum, Optic, they had a great run, through this tournament, but it's been, pretty lackluster results for them since, their formation. What do you think? Do you think they make a roster change, or do you think they kind of stick with it and maybe they found their groove? Where's your head at on that one?
I think that considering their performance in this event after they did a boot camp, I think that we might see them do a bit more boot camping and a bit more of the hard work in that area as opposed to changing up roster, because it seems like their roster actually has the potential. They just need to invest in it.
Yeah, I mean, I could really only see, because Optic was one of those two teams, version 1 was the other, where, in that whole like roster mania stuff that never happened, they were going to drop Magic Bear. So for Com. So I really only see them making a roster move if someone, like a top tier talent becomes available, either wanting to leave or, a ripple down effect, kind of similar to what happened with version 1. So, I mean, but I can also see them rocking with it. I mean, certainly they performed pretty well in this regional, but if they want any chance of making the World Championships, they need to step their game up. They need to have a really, really, really good spring split. So then on a similar note, that kind of, it's an additional question on the same topic, right? So like Space Station, NRG, version 1, what's next for them? Is there another roster move for Space Station? NRG has been the same roster for so long. They're, starting to rival G2 in terms of length. What do they do? Does version 1 drop Com after a poor split from the team, or Torment? What do you think?
Well, I mean, version 1 made it pretty clear that they were going to drop Com first chance they got earlier when that roster apocalypse that never happened. So that's still got to be weighing on them. After not making it to Major, they're going to be looking to do something. Version 1 SSG, I think I could see both of them making roster changes because they both seem to be a bit more impulsive and reactionary. NRG, considering the length of tenure that the players have on that team, I think they're going to just sit down, put in some work, and try to just get better as a team, as opposed to trying to swap rosters and things like that. But you never really know. You never really know what these teams are going to do.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, I can see Space Station and version 1 making roster moves. I mean, really, in my humble opinion, as much as it pains me to say so, I feel like if Space Station's going to make a roster move, it's going to be Arsenal that's going to be moving, in my opinion, because the other two players have been brought in, by Daniel and Arsenal, so I'm not really sure what would happen there. I mean, maybe potentially some kind of trade of some sort with V1, like Com for Arsenal or something, similar like that, but I feel like NRG has to do something. Right, they've made playoffs the past two events, haven't really made a lot of noise. This is the second major in a row that they've missed now. It was not particularly close. I don't think they came into today having a chance at. Actually, they did have a chance to make the major. I strike that, but I mean, I think that they need to do something, even if they want a slimmer of a chance to make the World Championships.
Yeah, I think that we're gonna see a lot less roster changes between these splits because we're pretty late in the season. Some teams are looking at a very long shot for Worlds, and some teams are not, obviously. But I do think that if a team with the prestige of like NRG doesn't make it to Worlds, well, that's probably the only way we're going to see roster changes there. But SSG and V1, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised they change between these splits. I don't think they will, but as soon as you said SSG gets rid of Arsenal, my ears perked up.
I mean, they brought in LJ, they brought in Daniel. I mean, Daniel seems to be the star of that team. As much as the Space Station fans love Arsenal, I'm not sure what their move would be. I guess we'll have to wait and find out. That's part of it. But as podcasters, we get to make all kinds of fun predictions and ultimately be wrong all the time.
Well, we're experts, so, and you can tell because of the podcast.
Exactly.
But moving on, just to recap what we were saying before, our 5 NA teams that are going to be making it to the San Diego Major are FaZe Clan, Gen G, Complexity, G2, and Dignitas. Dignitas ended up taking that last slot that was fought for tooth and nail by, I think 7 different teams were fighting for that. So good on them. I hope that they continue looking better than they have most of the split.
Yeah, and then moving right along, it's time to take you around the world, and we will start with Oceania with OCE. In OCE, we find another rematch of the Super Lucky Grudge match with Pioneers and Ground Zero. This time with Pioneers taking Game 7 5-1 and getting their first win in this this regional. Ground Zero took the other 2, and finally kind of beating Super Lucky, the player that they dropped, and the one that Ground Zero picked up. And Ground Zero and Pioneers are your 2 Oceania teams headed to San Diego.
Moving on to MENA, we're looking at the same story we've seen. It really is just a two team region, with the grand finals being Team Falcons versus Rule 1, and this time though Rule 1 wins in Game 5, 4-1 over Team Falcons. But that said, they didn't keep Falcons down enough, so Falcons are handed to San Diego, and Rule 1 is not.
Okay. Now let's put on our tinfoil hats here, and we can be a little bit conspiracy theorist on this one. But
I got a sweet one for this. All right, go ahead. Explain the situation.
So both of us have made pretty clear our reservations about the format switch. We both prefer the Swiss stage that has been in the World Championships in the fall, but coming into this Winter Invitational for MENA specifically, in order for Rule 1 to advance to the major, they had to win the grand finals, and they needed Falcons to finish 5th or worse, like in terms of points, in order for them to make the regional. And we've talked about it a little bit at length. MENA's still up and coming region in terms of like the depth of talent that we see, like in an NA or an EU. It's really a 2-team region, as we've said. So Team Falcons aren't going to get beat unless Rule 1 beats them, and vice versa. That seems to be kind of the MO of this region. It's really those 2 teams, and everybody else is trying to play catch up. But because of the way that this format works, if you go 3-0, if you top your group, you will get a bye into the quarterfinals, but you will be on opposite sides of the bracket, as you don't play other teams that won their groups either. So you get into a situation where if Falcons makes the semifinals, they're guaranteed a spot in the major. And so Rule 1 can play them in the quarterfinals if they lose a match in their group. And basically, if you lose a match in your group, then you would play Team Falcons in the quarterfinals, and you could knock them out and have a chance to go to the major. But that being said, it's a 2-team region. That would be throwing a match. I don't think that they would lose otherwise if they weren't, trying to their fullest potential. But we had a couple pros tweeting about it. Hey, I don't know how you guys, how your mind was in that series the whole time, how you, just stomped them like you did. I would have thrown that game. I would have, done everything I could to try and make the major, because that's ultimately the goal. So, in my opinion...
It's my turn.
Yeah, go ahead.
Now it's my turn, because there's this nonstop talk about this dream run from Optic Gaming, and there's an obvious clear winner right now in NA, with FaZe Clan being absolutely dominant, and FaZe Clan being the only team that seems to be able to take down Gen G. So I now find it very suspicious that Optic Gaming beats Gen G in Group B in NA, which then means that FaZe Clan and Gen G face off in the quarterfinals as opposed to the grand finals where we will have definitely seen them. I don't know if FaZe Clan threw that with Optic or not, but I'm saying that it's 100% possible with this exact situation that FaZe Clan wanted to face Gen G in the quarterfinals and take them out early so they could take that first seed. Because I think if they were both in the grand finals, even if they won, FaZe Clan would not have gotten first seed.
No, you're right. They beat them by 1 point. So basically, they just had to do one round better than them. So like if, Gen G lost in the quarters, FaZe making actually they were behind by more than that. Yeah, exactly what happened needed to happen for them to win the major and to be number 1 seed.
Yep.
So
not saying that is what happened, but it's very suspicious that Optic was able to be FaZe.
But we're not saying that's not what happened.
I am full on conspiracy theorying here.
Yeah, I mean, we have our tinfoil hats on. It's fine.
Yeah.
But this brings the biggest point that both of our topics have is the format of play shouldn't bring into consideration throwing matches to have a better chance at winning a major. You shouldn't be able to win by losing. It sets your competitive integrity up for failure. It decreases the overall talent and ability for the viewers, and it quite frankly sets a really awful example for people who are just getting into the scene, just younger kids that are watching for the first time, and they see a team that's like not trying or not going full out. It's a bad look, I think, and I think that something needs to be changed.
Yeah, because I mean, back to the anger making that is my opinion of FaZe Clan right now. Granted, that's because they're beating the team I like, and I'm now understanding this rivalry rage that people have against the team that beats their team in sports. Because I never got into sports, but I'm getting into this. Thank you, Kyle. It's your fault. But outside of the 3 games that they lost to Optic, FaZe drops only 2 other games in the entire event.
To teams that have been previously much better than Optic.
Oh, both, yeah. They only dropped 1 game to Gen G, who is arguably the best in the region, except for FaZe when they're firing on all cylinders, and 1 to G2, who did take 2nd overall last season. So like they're not a low end team, but that same team that only took 1 game off FaZe 4-0'd Optic just before that. So like I don't know. Very suspicious, and it got them a first seed in the major because they lost in groups.
Yeah. And I mean, again, we're not accusing anybody of throwing games or of not trying or anything like that. It's just, it seems odd, I will say, to put it lightly, right? That, FaZe would lose.
Statistically improbable.
Yeah, to lose 3-1 to Optic. I mean, it's 1 overtime game and then a 5-1 and a 2-1. I mean, in groups. First match of the day, maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe, it was just a, kind of a rough start for FaZe. But, they sweep Pittsburgh Knights. They sweep M80. They, almost sweep Gen G in the quarterfinals. They sweep Complexity. They're beating, like, Gen G, Complexity, G2 are, like, that's 4 of your 5 major teams right there, right? You're beating the team that is currently in first place in the region, the team that is currently 3rd place in the region, and the team that is 4th place in the region. On your quest to be number 1 seed.
Not only, but you get 5-1'd by a team that doesn't even make the majors, that hasn't made it out of groups half the time. Like, how? Like, one of those games 5-1? I don't know. I'm not saying that anybody it through, because that would be irresponsible. I'm just saying it smells like dead fish in here. I don't even know if that's a saying. Don't keep that in. You're probably keeping it in because you hate me. That's fine.
It smells fishy.
Yeah, there we go. Smells fishy. No, you said shit earlier. I'm gonna start saying shit. Shit. All right. Well, So we could continue bitching for another 20 minutes, or we could end this thing. Where are you at?
I think we've adequately bitched.
All right, we've adequately bitched. We've opened up the fish shop, and we're gonna close it down. I'm gonna take my tinfoil hat off now. So now everything I say can be held against me, I think is how that works. But all I'm gonna say now is thank you everybody for tuning in to the Boost Overball podcast. Please take time to continue to rate us and follow us on socials, like, subscribe, all that stuff. As far as getting our name out there and helping us grow, we really appreciate it. We appreciate you tuning in and listening to us. We aren't doing this for you, so if you're enjoying it, that's just a bonus. We just want VIP passes. So if you know anybody who can get us VIP passes, wink wink. Anywho, yeah, so thank you for tuning in. Hope you enjoy it. We do have a couple things coming up. It looks like we're going to be doing a ticket giveaway. We have a couple tickets that we're going to try and give away for the San Diego Major. And then we're going to start getting our interviews lined up because we are coming into a little bit of a break in RLCS action going into the Major. I think we have a month.
Yeah, 4 episodes of interviews is hopefully what we're aiming for before doing our winter major preview on April 5th.
But anyway, April 5th. Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. And once again, as always, choose Boost over Ball.
Thank you for listening to the Boost Over Ball podcast.